All right, let's jump right in, shall we? Today we're tackling Przedwiośnie by Stefan Żeromskiego.
Przedwiośnie.
It's a Polish novel, early 20th century,
Mm.
revolution, war, huge societal shifts, you name it. We're going to follow our main man, Cezarego Baryki, as he navigates all of this.
You know what's really striking about Przedwiośnie? It's not just like a history lesson.
Right.
Żeromski puts you right there with Cezary, makes you feel the impact of these events.
Yeah, you really get a sense of how these upheavals shape Cezary, his decisions, his whole worldview even. So let's start with young Cezary, growing up on the family estate.
Okay.
They weren't exactly wealthy anymore,
Right.
but they clung to those stories,
Yeah.
about their past fortune and status.
I see.
There's even this whole legend about a lost family fortune,
Ah, interesting.
which kind of fueled this sense of, well, being a bit exceptional.
This is important, I think,
Definitely.
because it sets up Cesary's, well, you could say naivete. He's kind of primed for disillusionment.
And that's where the Russian Revolution comes in, shatters that whole sheltered life.
Right.
Cezary and his mother, they're forced to flee Baku, and things get pretty intense from there.
Imagine Baku, right on the edge, empire crumbling, erupting in violence. It's here that Cesary's worldview gets shattered. He sees brutality, chaos, both during the revolution and then the war that follows.
And leaves a real mark on him.
Absolutely.
He ends up joining the Polish army during the Polish-Soviet War. But it's not really out of conviction, more like social pressure, fear of being seen as a coward.
That's a powerful point, isn't it? How do we reconcile ideals of patriotism with the brutal reality of conflict? Cezary really grapples with that throughout the novel. Seeing war up close like that, it makes him question everything.
Exactly. And then there's that recurring motif of glass houses.
Oh, yeah, the glass houses.
Right.
Yeah.
They represent transparency, but also fragility. Almost a perfect metaphor, wouldn't you say, for Cesary's shifting worldview. Early on, he's drawn to these big idealistic visions. Socialism particularly. He sees those glass houses as a symbol of progress, this utopian society.
I see.
But then reality hits. Poverty, violence, inequality. I mean, think about that horrific aftermath of the Armenian-Tatar conflict in Baku, or the desperate poverty he witnesses in post-revolution Russia.
It all chips away at his idealism, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
That stark contrast
Yeah.
between those intellectual debates about progress and the actual experience.
Right. People just struggling to survive.
Exactly.
It's like he's constantly running up against that. The gap between theory and reality. Even later on, when he's in Warsaw, he sees it again, playing out in the different political factions.
Interesting.
Right. Everyone has their blueprint for a better future, but no one seems to be dealing with the immediate needs of the people. It's no wonder Cezary becomes disillusioned, starts questioning not just the systems, but his own place in all of it.
It makes sense.
And it's not just these external forces shaping him either, his personal choices,
Yeah.
particularly his relationships with women. They really reveal a lot about his inner struggles, I guess you could say.
Tell me more about these relationships.
Oh, they're definitely not just romantic subplots. They're reflections of his evolving views on love, on loyalty, on responsibility even. Take his early rebellion against his controlling father. It really shows that yearning for freedom, for autonomy. But then his relationships with women, things get complicated. He has that unrequited love for his mother's friend, from his youth.
Oh.
And then the passionate but ultimately destructive affair with Laura Kushenika.
I see.
And then the more innocent, almost idealized love with Karolina Sergerovichona, which sadly ends in tragedy.
Each relationship, like a different stage in his development.
Yeah, I think so.
Almost like he's trying on different versions of himself.
Right, trying to figure out who he is in this world that's constantly changing. What stands out to you so far as we delve into Cesary's world?
The tension between his idealism and those harsh realities, it really gets you thinking,
Yeah.
how we all navigate those big historical moments, how individual lives are impacted by forces so much bigger than ourselves.
Exactly. And as we move into the next chapter of Cesary's journey, keep that in mind, because things are about to get even more intense.
So we left Cezary and his father desperately trying to escape.
Right, stuck in Russia.
With one suitcase.
Yeah.
Clinging to that dream of getting back to Poland.
And it's really his father's dream, isn't it? Talking about Poland like this mythical homeland. It's kind of ironic when you think about it.
Oh, absolutely. Cesary's seen the revolution, the war, the brutality. But his father's stuck in this romanticized vision. Nostalgia, longing. It's like they're living in two completely different worlds.
It really highlights that disconnect.
Yeah.
between ideals and reality, which seems to be, well, a pretty big theme in the novel.
Definitely. And their journey, it becomes this microcosm
Oh, I see what you mean.
of all the turmoil.
Right.
You know, the refugees, former officials, aristocrats, all fleeing, each with their own story of loss and upheaval.
There's that one scene, I always think about it, the ship, packed with people escaping. It's described as a discharge of the bowels of the great empire.
Wow.
Such a powerful image, a world falling apart.
Right. Everything familiar just gone. And amidst all of this chaos, Cesare's father, he becomes gravely ill.
Their escape becomes this desperate race against time.
Absolutely. Constantly fearing they'll be robbed, caught in the crossfire.
Right. And it's during this journey, this dangerous journey, that we see Cesare really reflecting.
Interesting.
He observes nature, the spring flowers.
I see.
He finds solace in poetry. It's almost like nature offers him this escape from all the turmoil.
That connection to nature,
Yes.
this recurring theme.
Right. That yearning for peace, for stability. And it's interesting, his appreciation for poetry, because he used to hate it, shows how much he's changing. He's becoming more introspective, more attuned to, well, those deeper layers of human experience.
I like that. And then they finally reach Poland.
And there's another shift, a dramatic one.
Yeah.
Cesare's father, consumed by that longing for home, he dies shortly after they arrive.
Heartbreaking. It leaves Cesare completely adrift.
Right. The dream's gone. He's questioning his identity, his purpose, everything.
He meets Szymon Gajowiak.
Right. His father's friend, a mentor figure.
Gajowiak offers some insights into Polish society, politics.
But they have very different views, don't they?
Gajowiak, he embodies this specific vision of Poland,
Okay.
focused on economic development, national unity. He sees the defeat of the Bolsheviks in 1920 as this miraculous event, proof of Polish resilience, a divine intervention even.
But Cesare's seen war, revolution. He's not swayed by this patriotic fervor.
Right.
He wants to understand what Poland is really like. So he explores Warsaw, especially those poorer districts, and what he finds is a stark contrast to Gajowiak's idealized image.
The glass houses motif again?
It's like it's coming back full circle. Gajowiak talks about them, these modern, transparent buildings, as symbols of progress and harmony.
But Cesare sees poverty, disease, inequality.
Exactly. Further fueling his cynicism.
And then there are those intellectual circles in Warsaw.
Oh, right. He's initially drawn to socialist ideas.
But he gets frustrated, all that dogmatism, the infighting.
It's like they're all arguing about how to create a better future while ignoring the people right in front of them.
He gets into some heated arguments with Lulek.
Oh, that fellow student.
Yeah, Lulek represents that rigid ideological perspective, dismisses national identity as a bourgeois construct, champions the global proletariat revolution. But Cesare, he's grappling with national identity, especially in the context of a newly formed nation.
It's such a clash.
A clash of ideologies. And through these conversations, through his observations, Cesare starts to form his own understanding. He's still searching, but he's not taking things at face value anymore.
Do you remember that scene with the policeman in Warsaw? He's observing the city, sees the wealth, the poverty, the desire, the despair. It's like a perfect representation of Cesare's internal conflict,
It's a brilliant scene.
trying to reconcile all of those opposing forces.
It captures the essence of the novel. Individual struggles, societal upheavals, dreams clashing with reality. That search for meaning in turbulent times.
And just when you think he might be finding some solid ground, things take another turn. He gets entangled in all these romantic relationships.
Complicating his search even further.
And these relationships, they're not just personal dramas, are they?
No.
They reveal a lot about the social dynamics, the
Oh.
clash between tradition and modernity, the evolving roles of men and women.
Absolutely. Laura Koszyniecka, Karolina Saratwitzona, Wanda Oksiska. Each one represents a different aspect of Polish society.
Laura, the wealthy widow, she's that aristocratic sophistication.
And Karolina from the impoverished noble family, that traditional romantic ideal.
Right, and Wanda struggling to find her place in this world that's been transformed by war and revolution.
It's through these relationships that Cesare's conflicts become even more amplified. Passion and responsibility, idealism and cynicism, a stable life versus that yearning for something more.
He's testing boundaries, pushing against expectations, but at the same time, he longs for connection, for belonging.
It's palpable in his interactions with each woman. With Laura, it's passionate, destructive. With Carolina, it's innocent, idealized, but tragic. Even his brief moments with Wanda reveal that desire for stability,
It's fascinating how each relationship reflects a different part of them.
highlighting those inner struggles as he tries to define himself in a world that's constantly in flux.
We've journeyed with Cesare through so much.
A revolution, war, personal turmoil.
He's faced loss, seen his ideals shattered, questioned everything. Where does all of this leave him?
Exhausted, disillusioned, seeking refuge in the countryside, hoping to find some peace, some solace in a simpler life. He ends up on this small estate, Ciudad, run by this guy, Grubajeski. Very pragmatic.
I bet Cesare thinks he's going to escape it all, find some peace and quiet in the countryside.
Initially, he approaches it almost with this intellectual curiosity, wants to understand the essence of rural life, connect with the peasants, learn from their experiences.
Looking for something authentic.
Exactly, something to ground him after all that he's been through.
But once again, ideals clash with reality.
Right.
He finds that the peasants' concerns are much more, practical, focused on survival, not these grand debates he was having in Warsaw.
There's that scene where he tries to talk to them about the revolution, intellectual stuff. They listen politely, but their real interests are local gossip, the weather, the challenges of farming.
It's that gap again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between intellectual theorizing and actual lived experience.
Absolutely, a recurring theme throughout the novel, constantly challenging Cesare, making him confront his own limited worldview. And even in this seemingly tranquil setting, there's still drama. He gets entangled with the community, witnesses their struggles, their resilience, their traditions.
There's this sense of timelessness there. Such a contrast to the rapid change he experienced in Baku and Warsaw.
And then Hippolyte arrives, his friend, representing a much more carefree, hedonistic way of life.
It's like the outside world is creeping back in.
Exactly, disrupting the routine of Ciudad, bringing social events, romantic intrigues. He can't really escape his past.
Or the complexities of society. And here's where the novel's exploration of love and societal expectations reaches this climax.
Cesare becomes infatuated with Carolina Sarwatovitsona, the young woman from that noble but impoverished family.
The connection is intense, isn't it?
It is.
Fueled by this shared sense of alienation, yearning for something more. But you can tell it's doomed from the start.
Definitely a tragic element there, foreshadowing the novel's ultimate message about disillusionment, about how difficult it is to find true happiness when there are so many barriers.
And the tragedy plays out in such a heartbreaking way. Cesare, trying to prove his love for Carolina, gets involved in this reckless scheme, and it leads to her death.
Leaving him filled with guilt and remorse, questioning his role in all of it. It's a turning point. He's forced to face the consequences of his actions.
And the impact of societal pressures on individual lives.
A harsh reminder that even in the quiet countryside, revolution, war, social upheaval, it all continues to shape individual destinies.
We've seen Cesare transform.
From a naive young man to someone disillusioned, shaped by the events of his time.
It's really remarkable how Żeromski captures the human experience. Amidst all this historical upheaval, it's not just about revolution and war, is it? It's about searching for meaning, about ideals clashing with reality, about love and loss.
Makes you wonder, if Cesare, with all his yearning for progress, ends up disillusioned, what does true progress even look like in a world that's always changing, always struggling?
Is it even possible to build a better future without sacrificing individual freedom, without acknowledging how complex we are?
Przedwiośnie doesn't give easy answers.
But it sure gives us a lot to think about. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into Przedwiośnie.
Until next time.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.